If you'd please rise to honor our nation's flag. I pledge allegiance to the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Ms. Scott?
Here.
Mr. Conway?
Here.
Mr. Gignac?
Here.
Mr. Leary?
Here.
Ms. Martin?
Here.
Mayor Murphy?
Here.
Ms. Ross-Sikowicz?
Here.
7 present.
We have tonight, under special order of business, a spotlight on excellence for the Lowell High School U.S. Air Force Junior ROTC accomplishments. Madam Superintendent.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This evening, we have a Spotlight on Excellence featuring our ROTC unit, Massachusetts 771 drill team, who have won some prestigious awards at a recent Drill League championship. They placed first overall, and they had 4 drill meets for the season. They collected 15 first-place trophies, 4 second-place trophies, and 1 third-place trophy for their performance in individual categories of competition. Recently, they went to Macon, Georgia, for the Air Force National Drill Competition, and they were the only team from New England to compete, and they represented us, as always, with great pride in very distinguished manner. We proudly finished 3rd in the nation in an unarmed inspection category and 5th in the nation in unarmed exhibition category. Cadet Edgardo Centeno finished in the top 10 out of almost 500 cadets in the Armed Division Individual Drill Regulation Competition. The team was very successful, the most successful national competition to date, and we commend you for your work and your diligence to bring pride to our school. And with that, I would love to introduce Lieutenant Colonel Peter D'Amico and Master Sergeant Kevin Casilli and Sergeant David Smith, who will speak on behalf. Thank you.
Ma'am, thank you very much. Mr. Mayor, distinguished members of the school committee, Superintendent Franco, and all those members of the Lowell Public Schools. First of all, I'd like, on behalf of Master Sergeant Casilli, Tech Sergeant Smith, and the whole Cadet Corps, I'd like to thank you very much for honoring our drill team and in this way. It really means a lot to them. I don't think that I could have done what they do day to day when I was in high school. It requires an incredible amount of dedication, discipline on their part to not only come to practices in the morning, sometimes in the evening, give up a lot of their free spare time to do what they do. And so they truly, as you said, need to be commended. Regarding the Air Force Junior ROTC program, as you all know, it is a centerpiece, I believe, of the high school and of Lowell. We represent not only the high school, the Air Force, but the city of Lowell. And we just found out, actually, that we're going to be able to represent the high school in Lowell at a Red Sox game upcoming with the color guard on April 17th against the Texas Rangers. So during the break, if you tune into the game, you maybe have to see them. As far as the program goes, for many who don't know, the program is one of the largest in the country. This year, we started the year with about 370 cadets in the program with the 3 instructors. The mission of ROTC, the reason why it exists in the high schools and throughout the nation, is to develop citizens of character dedicated to serving the nation and their community. That's our stated mission. We do that through installation of 3 core values, And I hope that if I asked, they could all say these to you. But integrity first, service before self, and excellence in all we do. And everything that we do in the program, from the 4-year curriculum that we have set up in leadership, aerospace science, as well as physical fitness for all 4 years. We've got extracurricular activities. Drill team is just one of those extracurricular activities. We also have a flight club. We do extracurricular physical fitness for those who are interested in developing healthy lifestyles now and into the future, and that's 3 days a week. Some of the things that we do that have been cornerstones of our program, as many of you know, is the community service. This year, we've already accomplished 5,000 hours of community service on our way to our goal of 10,000 hours of community service. And that is one of those core values, service before self, and that instills in the students, hopefully, a lifelong desire to contribute to their community and to the nation. Some of the programs that we contribute to, we do city beautification projects throughout Lowell. We're involved with the Merrimack Valley Food Bank, where we, this year alone, raised throughout the high school almost or over 4 tons of canned goods for the Merrimack Valley Food Bank. We do Boys and Girls Club mentoring 2 days a week. The students go over for 3 hours and they mentor and tutor younger children over there at the Boys and Girls Club. We also have a tutoring program in junior ROTC where our more experienced cadets tutor other cadets to hopefully reach their own academic goals. Some of the other community service that we were involved with, obviously the Honor Guard, that is a showpiece and a visual representation of what our program is all about. Like I said, we're going to represent the high school at the Red Sox game. We've also been throughout the city. We're going to march in the Memorial Day Parade at the Lowell Cemetery, and those are just to name a few. So I appreciate all the support that we get from Mr. Rosmaric on up through the city. It makes a difference for our program and our kids in the program, their dedication to what we try to instill in them. It really means a lot. So thank you very much.
Thank you, and congratulations to the cadets, and we wish you all the success in the world for the junior ROTC program. Next under the agenda, we have the minutes, approval of the minutes of the regularly scheduled meeting of Wednesday, March 21st, 2012. It's the wish of the committee. Move to approve by Ms. Martin, seconded by Mr. Conway. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? So voted. Next, under permission to enter, we have a contract ratification of the SEIU clerks. Madam Superintendent.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, this is just moved to approve with the ratification for the clerical union contract.
The wish of the committee. Motion to approve by Ms. Rosikowicz, seconded by Mr. Leary. Roll call, please.
Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. Conway?
Yes.
Mr. Gignac?
Yes.
Mr. Leary?
Yes.
Ms. Martin?
Yes.
Mayor Murphy?
Yes.
Ms. Rosikowicz?
Yes.
7 yeas approved.
Next, we have the contract ratification for the SEIU library aides. Move for approval by Mr. Leary, seconded by Mr. Gignac. Roll call, please.
Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. Conway?
Yes.
Mr. Gignac?
Yes.
Mr. Leary?
Yes.
Ms. Martin?
Yes.
Mayor Murphy?
Yes.
Ms. Rosikowicz?
Yes.
7 yeas approved.
Next, we have the contract ratification for the GLU UTL building service employees. Motion by Mr. Gignac, seconded by Ms. Martin. Roll call, please.
Ms. Scott?
No.
Mr. Conway?
Yes.
Mr. Gignac?
Yes.
Mr. Leary?
No.
Ms. Martin?
Yes.
Mayor Murphy?
Yes.
Ms. Rosikowicz?
Yes.
5 yeas, 2 nays approved.
Next, we have the contract ratification for Glue UTL food service employees. Move for approval by Mr. Leary, seconded by Mr. Conway. Roll call, please.
Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. Conway?
Yes.
Mr. Gignac?
Yes.
Mr. Leary?
Yes.
Ms. Martin?
Yes.
Mayor Murphy?
Yes.
Ms. Ross Sikowicz?
Yes.
7 yeas, approved.
Under permission to enter, Madam Superintendent?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Murphy. To the Greater Lawrence Education Collaborative, GLEC, for $300,000 to amend the existing contract to provide for additional out-of-district tuition cost for 26 students enrolled in receiving services as outlined in the special education IEP. Funding will be provided by the school department budget special education account. To the Lighthouse School Incorporated, for $123,156 to amend the existing contract to provide for additional out-of-district costs for 7 students enrolled in receiving services as outlined in the special education IEP. Funding again provided by the school department budget special education tuition account. To the Perkins School for the Blind for $39,613 to amend the existing contract to provide for the out-of-district tuition costs for 2 students enrolled in receiving services as outlined in the special education IEP. Funding provided to the school department budget special education tuition account. To the Seven Hills Foundation Incorporated, Seven Hills, $774 to amend the existing contract to provide for additional out-of-district tuition costs for 1 student enrolled and receiving services as outlined in the special education IEP. Funding again provided by the school department budget, school special education tuition account.
Thank you. Mr. Conway?
Mr. Mayor, excuse me, could we take the Seven Hills Foundation separately on this? I have a conflict of interest, a relative that works
Sure.
for the foundation.
Divide the question. What is the wish of the committee? Any further discussion on the? So the motion would be then to take the first 3 items together. So moved by Ms. Martin, seconded by Mr. Conway. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed? So voted. Do we have a motion to approve? By Mr. Leary, seconded by Mr. Gignac. Roll call, please.
Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. Conway?
Yes.
Mr. Gignac?
Yes.
Mr. Leary?
Yes.
Ms. Martin?
Yes.
Mayor Murphy?
Yes.
Ms. Ross Sikowicz?
Yes.
7 yeas, approved.
Next, entertain a motion to approve the Seven Hills Foundation request by Ms. Scott, seconded by Ms. Ross Sikowicz. Roll call, please.
Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. Conway?
Present.
Mr. Gignac?
Yes.
Mr. Leary?
Yes.
Ms. Martin?
Yes.
Mayor Murphy?
Yes.
Ms. Ross Sikowicz?
Yes.
6 yeas, 1 present, approved.
Thank you. Next, we have under memorials, Nancy Keem, a 2010 Lowell High graduate. Barbara Fairbank, a retired Daly Middle School parent liaison. And William Alvarado, husband of Eli Rivera of the McAvenue School, a paraprofessional, and stepfather of Marta Rosario, Curriculum and Instruction Office Clerk. Would you please rise in a moment of silence and darken chambers? May they rest in peace. Next, we have, under the motions section of the agenda, a motion by Kristen Ross Sikowicz, request that the superintendent furnish a report on the number of children who have transferred into Lowell Public School District over the past 3 years from charter schools and technical high schools. Identify the proportion of those students that required special education services and alternative school supports upon entry into the district. second by Ms. Martin. Ms. Rossikovich.
Thank you, Mayor. Given the fact that the city will see a new charter school this year, there are ongoing issues with charter schools and the reentry of students from our technical high schools and from our charter schools back into the district after they've not been successful in those schools. However, what I'm realizing is that we don't realize the reimbursement for that child to the district, to Lowell Public Schools, after they've been counted as a charter school student or a technical high school student, technical vocational high school student after October 1. So this really lays the groundwork, I think, in terms of, I suppose, our community advocating on an equity issue, to the state and how our state administers these policies and administers funding for our school districts. So it's really just laying the basis for data, and I look forward to seeing that.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? So voted. Next, we have a motion by Kristen Rossikovich and Mayor Patrick Murphy, carried over from the last meeting. Request an update on the recommendations adopted by the Lowell School Committee with regard to the Latin Lyceum to include clarification of the role of the lead teacher in the Lyceum program and assignment of Lyceum students into one house to ensure consistency with guidance staff. Ms. Rossikovich.
Thank you. Okay, well, there are two parts to this motion, and one is to, really identify the parameters by which the lead teacher operates this program, and to establish clear guidelines so that everyone is very clear as to what those expectations are, students, families, and the lead teacher. And then the second part, of course, is, the idea of this particular piece of assigning Lyceum students into one house to ensure consistency, but I also see it as streamlining information, streamlining resources, and just overall ensuring consistency. So I would, appreciate your support. I look forward to the discussion.
Thank you. Any discussion on the motion? Mr. Conway.
Just for clarification, is this just for informational purposes for the superintendent to come back with a report in regards to this information? Is that my understanding of the motion?
Ms. Rossikovich.
Yes, I am looking for more information. Yes. Yeah.
Just for informational purposes, correct?
Well, I'd like to see the information so that we can, take it a step further if possible. So, my being a freshman committee person, I'm learning as I go as well. So I think that this is a great opportunity for me to learn more about the Lyceum program and the roles of those who administer these programs and oversee our children.
Mr. Conway.
No, thank you for the clarification. I just wanted to make sure that we weren't necessarily making a move tonight on the situation, but just to get information in regards to it.
Sure.
So I appreciate the clarification. Thank you.
Mr. Leary.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate the clarification as well. As some folks in the former committee knows, we had a motion by myself and Ms. Laraba, Committeewoman Laraba, regarding the same essential, well, at least the second part of the guidance counselor focus. So I think at any point in time, it's good to look at information to see where it goes. I think the first part of the motion regarding the lead teacher is absolutely a positive thing. I think some type of guidelines and structure to it is a positive thing. So I'm going to support this motion at this point. I think getting that information and looking at it further is big, but the bigger issue here really is the motion that, again, a motion I made in November that was made again at the last meeting, is the overall guidance. And I think we need to get a vision, an overall high school vision is needed, of which the guidance department is a significant part of that. We need that as we get into budget preparation for staffing. Do we add staff? Not only add it, do we realign it? So I think that's needed, and it's needed really in the next month. So thank you.
Any further discussion on the motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? So voted. Next, we have a motion by Kim Scott to request that the superintendent have a brochure prepared for all K-8 parents that describes our curriculum across all subjects for all grade levels that will be distributed each September. The brochure should include a timeline of the school year and an explanation of expectations for learning. The curriculum brochure should also be made available online. The superintendent should also provide feedback on the possibility of holding a curriculum night. Second by Mr. Leary. Ms. Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I made this motion after hearing from some concerned parents. They were interested in a brochure and the curriculum night, and I didn't think there was any harm in it. They felt that they lacked information on the curriculum and especially on the timeline. They wanted to be able to follow along with their children, to be able to support the curriculum at home. They also wanted to make sure that their kids were prepared with the skills at that point in time that they were supposed to. I think providing the curriculum night and providing the brochure with the timeline would be a first step in meeting the parents' requests to help their children with the curriculum. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Conway.
Just, excuse me, through you, Mr. Mayor, to the superintendent. Excuse me. Do we have a brochure now for, or some kind of information? How would they get this information at this point?
Madam Superintendent.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, we have had brochures in mathematics and literacy for a long period of time posted on the website. They used to be copied at central office, and they were copied at buildings. We are right now, and this is a very timely motion, Ms. Scott, because we have now upgraded the brochures to include the Common Core standards. And actually, there was a meeting this morning, all day, actually, principals presenting the new Common Core standards, so it's very timely, incorporating all the subject areas. So I would also recommend that this be presented at the next school committee meeting, because we have updates in ELA and history standards, and actually mathematics and science on the Common Core. So this will be, we're working on this, and we are working with teams of teachers, but the big picture plan, K-8, and of course the additional work we're doing at the high school is ongoing right now, but we can present the language arts plan sooner rather than later, and then these pamphlets are in process right now, the upgrade, but we've always had curriculum, brochures, information systems, and they obviously are not getting home to some of the homes. Those, a couple of people who have talked about it here, but it's something that we would be very diligent about. We are redoing them. We've had them over time, but these will be the ones that talk about the standards, Mr. Conway, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Martin.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. So just to be clear, so for parents who are watching who are interested in this topic area, first course of action is they can go to the website, and currently they are available. I believe they went up in the last couple weeks or so. But what we're actually in the process of doing is taking what exists as kind of a brochure and turning it into a more substantive piece that would really allow parents to be able to track based on standards as opposed to kind of the general topic areas So it'll be a much more powerful piece as when September comes, and we will, I assume, have in place at that point a far more effective distribution system. I mean, in the past, I know we were pretty effective at this, so it's a little disappointing that we've fallen off on that. But I would agree that timeliness being of the essence, we can look at September as a time when we'd be able to see this absolutely distributed to every single household. Okay.
Madam Superintendent.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, that is the plan, and we do have those online. We will be seeing, during the summer, we're going to be developing units of study that go along with the big picture piece, but the standards are already determined, because they're determined through the actual Common Core standards as in general. As a matter of fact, the presentation that was presented today by our literacy staff, both the elementary and middle, was a really great overview of the Common Core standards. I think it would be great for this committee, through the curriculum subcommittee, to see what the practitioners saw this morning, because it wasn't super technical, but it really gave a big picture. Also, so parents know, and all of you know, this change in curricula changes everything. So of course, the standards that are on these pamphlets will be the standards that are graded. So as Ms. Scott has been requesting, and others, will we know what our children have to know and be able to do? Yes, that's what parents want to know. And the idea of having a curriculum night to present this to all is really, it just goes along with it, so that's a great part of this motion also. I would suggest that that is filmed and it's put on television so people can see it in another, so when we have that subcommittee or when we have a presentation, that it should then go on the local TV channel so we can have people look at it at their leisure. And so all of this is, like I said, it's very timely because we are really right in the midst of releasing all of this and fine-tuning it and doing the training for teachers. And so parents, of course, are right along with the practitioners and finding out what kids need to know and be able to do. We have to do this work together.
Thank you. Ms. Scott and then Ms. Martin.
You had mentioned the ELA and the math brochures were online. It was actually, I mean, they talked about all the areas, but it was mostly the science and the social studies that they were looking for, the mapping out of the curriculum that they were supposed to be doing. So, thank you.
Ms. Martin?
Thank you. If I could, just as you're kind of coming up with the plans, because I do think the idea, the curriculum night is a great idea. And it reminds me kind of as we go back a few years when we had gone through a series of safety summits that we had hosted at each one of our schools. The idea of doing a really curriculum-driven event at each one of our schools where we had the representation from the superintendent, from the curriculum office, who really did a presentation at each one of our schools, welcomed parents to it. I think that could be a really compelling way, particularly when we're talking about such a dramatic change to the Common Core standards, could really be a nice way of introducing our school families to what is really a very new kind of framework for them. So just as you're kind of considering how to move forward, it might be a way to kind of revive that, that series of events. Thanks.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? So voted. Next, we have the Community Partnership Subcommittee report and approval of the minutes of the meeting of Wednesday, March 7th, 2012. Mr. Conley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate that elevation. I first of all want to thank Claire Abrams for putting this together, Assistant Superintendent. Again, it gets kind of complicated and very wordy, and I do really appreciate it. At the meeting, we had myself, Connie Martin, and Kristen Ross-Sikowicz on the committee, plus all the other members, Bob Gignac, Jim Leary, and you, Mayor Patrick Murphy, and also Kim Scott. And from the central office, we had Gene Frankel, the superintendent, and Claire Abrams, of course, the assistant superintendent, and others, excuse me, in attendance, which I think was certainly the thrust of this meeting. We had Senator Eileen Donoghue, we had Brian Martin, the district director for the Congresswoman Nikki Songus, and also Ray Riddick, who has been newly appointed Greater Lowell Community Foundation Executive Director. And there's a group of people that have been put together by the superintendent and meet periodically to, I think, help on this one specific project, dealing with trying to come up with a grant writer and a developer, which was presented back, I believe, last year or the year before last. And again, it's a complicated situation, and if we could just take a second, the reason why I think this came to the forefront is because we have mentioned many times on the floor that that because of budget cuts, we've lost over 500 positions in the last, I believe, the last 5 or 6 years. So I think the idea to try to find some type of supplemental money, funds, that could certainly help take care of some of the problems that we might have in our budget. And the idea of the grant writer and developer, I think, has emerged. But because of the financial restraints, this particular position that we're looking at is going to be funded by monies outside the school budget. We all know that on the state level and the federal level, needless to say, they're pretty tapped out as far as the funds are concerned, and I think that we need to we have to be creative in trying to come up with the funds. So once again, this committee has been very diligent in trying to work with the entire community to help out, and I would like to, just for a second, mention some of those names. Some of those people were not able to be there, but they are there at 7:30s, every other week, I believe, with the superintendent. People that we haven't mentioned, George Duncan, he's been obviously very helpful in this project, and Kendall Wallace from the Lowell Sun has been right there for us. Connie Martin has been getting up early at 7:30 in the morning, and I know she appreciates that. Carolyn Rochelo, Special Programs Coordinator, is helping to advise us in this area. And again, Assistant Superintendent Claire Abrams and Jean Franco. I just want to take, it's an ongoing project, Mr. Mayor, but I just want to take two quotes from individuals that I think kind of help to sum this up a bit. Mr. Martin stated, "We have come here to support the school community. We are a sounding board to the ideas you bring forward that you believe will enhance opportunities for students. Boston has been able to identify resources, and we here to make that happen in Lowell. We got together to kickstart this project as a way to help support the Lowell public school system's students and families during these difficult times." And I think that was right on target. And Ray Riddick, I think, Ray Riddick who was a member of the school committee a number of years ago, and as I said, is the member of the Community Foundation, is committed to working with the Lowell Public Schools to create a robust system comprised of the school, business, and community partners. We need to build a model here that can become a national model of working in collaboration with foundations, both in and out of the city, businesses and individuals. And budget cuts have been severe, but we need to see things continue in order for our schools to continue to grow. I feel confident that we may be able to create the flagship model here in Lowell. So again, these are very encouraging words by individuals that have been very supportive. And the charge that this group, or the discussion that we had with the superintendent, is to ask the superintendent to come up with a mission for this project. Because what we're trying to do is we're trying to fund this particular position for 3 years to show that is it successful or not, and also the goals. And if the mayor would allow me to let the superintendent give her goals on this as far as the community partnership subcommittee is concerned, and then I will just take literally just a few seconds to sum it up after she finishes.
Sure.
Thank
Madam
you.
Superintendent?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. The City of Lowell and its amazing collaboration pieces and how, in fact, the community partnerships and all of the business community really cares so much about the youth is such a strong bond and support for the school system. And so in our work, the goals of this particular group is to really provide us to interact productively. I've said this before, we've had all kinds of donations and things over time, but we're really at a time, not just now, but it's been long-standing, that we really have to look at academic outcomes for young people. Actually, at the most recent meeting that I had with the Citywide Parent Council, they were really very interested in additional programming for young people, science, technology, the whole STEAM piece that we've been talking about most recently. So how do we provide those opportunities? Well, it really comes with collaboration and fine-tuning the goals and objectives. this team is another vehicle, along with the work we do day to day. So it helps us to plan productively, looking at what, in fact, we can provide to our students and really give them real work situations. So down the road, not at this particular time, but we've talked quite a bit about mentoring and internships. These fine people who work in our community that can be great role models for our young people, building towards that. We need to actually, in partnerships, it's two-way. So when the school system has provided all of these really the support, how does the school system give back to the businesses so that the community knows how, in fact, they're involved in promoting the work of education and how important it is? For me, a person who's been really embedded in public education, the opinion of these fine people who are in business has been very helpful. Just looking at the whole public relations piece, the whole way that we have to make sure that the community in Lowell and the community at large understands the positive aspects of our school system. And so those are the things, the entities, the underlying work that we know needs to be done. We also realize when you look at places like the Boston Foundation that have millions of dollars come to them for certain entities and certain projects, that Lowell is a district that's the right size and really in tune with their youth, that we could actually go towards some of that funding that can expand the outcomes that our parents want and our children need. So this business community partnership, to me, is a nice foundation for us to work to stretch beyond, to have kids expand the reach.
Thank you. Mr. Conway.
Yes, and just very briefly to sum that up, I appreciate that, Madam Superintendent. And again, it's an ongoing project, and I think that sometimes it can get a little frustrating because perhaps it hasn't completely unfolded. But I think this group here and helping to advise us, and we want to get this right. That's what we want to do. And if it takes a little bit longer to make sure that it happens in a correct fashion, it's certainly worth the time. And we had a motion by Ms. Martin and second by Ms. Rosikowicz to recommend to the committee as a whole to a report of progress. And that's the report.
Well done. Thank you. Do we have any further discussion on the report? Seeing none, entertain a motion to approve and place on file as report of progress by Mr. Gignac, seconded by Ms. Martin. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? So voted. Next, we have the Lowell High School Subcommittee, a report and approval of minutes of the meeting of Thursday, March 8th, 2012. Mr. Conway.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Members of the committee, myself and Mr. Robert Gignac and Kristen Rosikowicz and other members of the committee that were there, Connie Martin, and from Central, Jean Franco and Claire Abrams. And once again, I want to thank Claire for putting this together. Other individuals that were there, Ed Rosemerick, the headmaster at the high school, Dr. Wendy Jack, the curriculum director, and we had a number of department chairs, Dr. Sharon Clark from Fine Arts, Mike DiVincenzi, Social Studies, Steve Jarvis, Foreign Languages and ELL, Suzanne Keefe from English Department, Roger Monod, Science and Health Education, and also Dr. Roxanne Howe was present. And we had there were 4 agenda items. The first one was the New England Association of Schools and College visits. The second, Lowell High School Club's. Third was the Lowell High School curriculum audit progress, and the 4th, online learning update. The first one being the New England Association of School visit. Every 10 years we do get a visit, and we go over the accreditation for the high school. It is now coming up in the year 2014, and Dr. Jack informed us that that she believes that the standards, she highlighted that she believes that these updated standards have a much better focus on teaching and also on learning. And She continued on and stated that the high school received a report from the Commission on Public and Secondary Schools recently that actually commended Lowell High School for their efforts in accomplishing the following. These were areas that they wanted to see some improvement, and just very quickly, the efforts of the school to address the effects of the budget reduction and how to handle that. Second was the restoration of the lead teachers in the academy program, and also a department chair for the fine arts. Another area that they were pleased that we took care of was the hiring of a new ELL teacher for the newcomers program, and the last point being reinstatement of the stipends for coaches and advisors for the 2011-12 school year. Dr. Jack reviewed the new standards and expectations with the full Lowell High School community. She talked about also is going to be reviewing the new standards and expectations with parents and also students. And currently, surveying the staff to discern their interest in a particular committee, because what needs to take place now is that a number of committees have to be formed in order to focus on that visit in 2014. The next steps that will be taken will be appointing a subcommittee chairs, and appointing subcommittees, and also scheduling the meetings. Mr. Gignac asked that the school committee also receive a copy of the findings from the last visit to review. And Dr. Jack is going to make copies of that, and I think that's important that we can take a look at what has happened in the past so that we can make a comparison and have as much information as possible. The second topic was Lowell High School clubs, and the headmaster, Ed Rosemerick, reported on that. It was in regards to a motion that we had in the past, and Mr. Rosemerick said that the clubs were a total experience for the kids. They were extremely important, and that there was certainly a wide interest, or a wide variety of interests with our students, and that he also supplied a list of different clubs, and he actually broke them up into categories of social and service, educational, competitive, and performing. And in conclusion, from Mr. Rosemerick's report, he stated that the importance of the clubs cannot be overstated, that student clubs and activities keep the schools vibrant, provide a sense of belonging, and perform numerous services for the greater Lowell community and partnerships and many other organizations. The third topic was the online learning, and just very quickly with that, Dr. Jack presented an update on the online learning initiative at Lowell High School, and at the present time, there are 25 teachers and administrators that have completed the formal course, and they're now qualified to become online instructors. The second point she wanted to bring out was 42 computers have arrived. 31 of them will be at the high school, and 11 will be going to the Malloy School. Classrooms and labs have been identified for online use. The purchase of student licenses is in progress, and there is a plan to offer credit recovery at the Malloy School, and that's supposed to be taking place very shortly, within a matter of a couple of weeks. And also a plan to have credit recovery during the summer school at the high school, and then move forward to the offering recovery on a larger scale going forth in 2012. Dr. Jack also reported the teachers were extremely excited about this initiative. Ms. Martin inquired if the timeline for these courses to take place at the Malloy is viable, and Dr. Jack did say that she thought so, and she believed that it would be handled in a proper time, and she would also give a progress report on that in an upcoming meeting. And I believe, excuse me, the last point that we had was the Lowell High School curriculum audit. And Dr. Jack once again reported on that, the progress of the curriculum audit taking place at the high school. As I said before, present were all the department heads, and they agreed that the implementation of a common syllabus provides a clarification and consistency within their own departments and actually across the disciplines. Dr. Jack also said that the teachers and department heads are meeting right now and developing, they're developing objects that they're looking at the findings that are going to take place and examples of some of these findings. Although the common assessments are in place in every discipline, we recognize the need to build consensus around our grading, and also a concern on their findings was the math, the new Common Core standards are requiring new alignments based on changes required regarding the specific concepts taught. And also in these findings, they determined that there is a need to increase the quantity and type of students through grades 9 through 12. And Dr. Jack concluded that it's truly a work in progress, and this work will continue to ensure that there's a rigor and equity among all classes through the curriculum, instruction, and assessment. And again, it was an excellent report by all, and that is the finish of that one. I can honestly say, Mr. Mayor, I do apologize for the length of it.
We're just glad to see that your voice has returned. Thank you,
you.
Mr. Conway. Any further discussion on the report? Ms. Martin.
Thank you very much. As my colleague had stated, I know that we were, one of the questions that I had during this meeting was the viability of the timeline of getting the online resources up and functioning at the Malloy. Because Mr. Conway was struck down 2 weeks ago and lost his voice, we are looking now at a full month. So I know that we were anticipating from the time of this original meeting, it would have been 3 weeks. So it's been about 4. Can we say with any, do we have any kind of update on how it's functioning at the Malloy? I don't know if anyone from high school's here.
Madam Superintendent.
Thank you, Ms. Martin. Yes, both Claire Abrams and I actually went with Dr. Jack to the Malloy School. We looked at the setup of the computer piece. The English class was supposed to have begun. I was there, I think, a week and a half ago, maybe 2 weeks ago. And so I will confirm that most definitely tomorrow, but the teachers have been trained. They were starting out with a couple of students, at least on the English class, and getting that up to speed. I know that Dr. Jack had asked me specifically for 200 licenses for summer school. So I will check with Dr. Jack tomorrow and make sure. But as of 2 weeks ago, they were supposed to have been beginning classes at the Malloy School.
Ms. Martin.
And then just one final question, particularly on this, the final section on the audit. So I was just a little confused, and it may just be the wording of this, but the determination of the discipline-specific objectives to be accomplished during the audit, is that's not necessarily during the audit, but the discipline-specific objectives to be completed and included as part of each syllabi. Am I reading that right?
Yes, explicitly, and as a matter of fact, as early today, Mrs. Abrams sat with the department chairs and the headmaster of the high school, along with the curriculum coordinator, just to talk about the fact of what needs to be on those particular, what the expectation was. We recently had a conversation, the standards piece and all that. That was reviewed today in a meeting. So yes, that's pretty explicit.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure it wasn't about specific objectives of the audit, because no one really cares about that. We really just want to hear about the specifics of the actual syllabi. Okay, thank you very much.
Sure. Mr. Leary.
Just briefly, I want to go to the online classes as well. I think and I thank my colleague for taking the time to answer, make a question regarding, because this is something we need, it should be going right now. And in terms, when we come to the budget, when you're looking at the high school and specifically, this is one piece, again, of a larger vision that we need to have presented at budget time. And it's important, because this is an area where we can grow in courses that we don't offer, where it be, languages or different types of sciences that we don't have the wherewithal to hire the practitioners to do it. So this is something I think is very important. It's a little delayed, and it's new, so we're going to have to kind of grit our teeth with that, but as we get into the budget with the high school, we need a vision of what this place is going to be, and that kind of ties into the audit and to the syllabus. I mean, that's really got to be done at budget time, because we're going to be funding positions based on what we do. And if we don't have it by the end of April, then it's going to be a missed opportunity as we go through the budget, a major missed opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the report? Motion to approve by Mr. Gignac, seconded by Ms. Martin. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? So voted. Next, we have the Personnel Subcommittee report and approval of the minutes of the meeting of Tuesday, March 27th, 2012. Ms. Martin.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. We did have a meeting of the Personnel Subcommittee with really a single issue that we were discussing. That was the superintendent's evaluation. This year, we are, for the first time, I think, dramatically changing the process and the structure and the instrument that we're using to evaluate our superintendent. We've made, I think, a very specific choice that we are aligning ourselves with what the state is putting in place for teacher evaluations that will be being rolled out here in our district at the Merkland in this current year, but then moving forward really across the Commonwealth. This new method of evaluation is what is going to be the gold standard as we move forward. I think it's particularly helpful for us as a committee to be using this right now and really familiarizing ourselves with something that's far more intense and I think far more effective and instructive in terms of the way we evaluate our superintendent as our direct report. So the first part of this process really was a self-evaluation that the superintendent undertook. I would definitely encourage people, this is available, as I understand it, on the website for people to be able to look at. And I certainly know all my colleagues have had an opportunity to take a look at it. I think superintendent was very honest, and I think she was very clear in terms of where she finds her performance and her experience to be proficient, which is, I think, I would agree, very strong across the board. There are areas that we are all looking at to see improvement. And I think getting this as a baseline is a great starting point, but I think the real work happens next when the superintendent is going to be presenting the Personnel Subcommittee, but really more importantly, this entire committee, with her goals. We'd be looking to be receiving those before the end of April, as I understand it. So the superintendent is developing those right now. It is important I think, for everyone to recognize that much like the work that goes on in our classrooms, we're talking about standards. So I think it ties in very effectively with the work we do every day. When we're talking about standards of instructional leadership, management and operations, family and community engagement, and professional culture, these are the 4 key areas that we recognize as the true standards that this superintendent will need to be demonstrating herself and her proficiency and success over the course of these next 2 years. So I would certainly encourage people to take a look at this document. As I said, it is a starting point. And I think that, again, the real key is going to be moving forward as we look at the goals and recognizing that for this committee as a whole, the superintendent is presenting her goals to us. That is the beginning of a conversation, and that we need to work together for both sides to be able to confirm what the goals will be moving forward. But I think for myself, and I'm sure for my colleagues, we're looking forward to seeing what we'll be focusing on in this next year. And I do want to thank the superintendent. I think the care that she took with this document was very obvious. And I think for all of us who are learning this for the first time, it's going to be a really instructive process for all of us to learn a lot more about how you really can gauge success in something that many times is tough to put your finger on. So thank you very much. I'd submit that as a very brief report of progress. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Martin. Any further discussion on the report? Motion to approve and accept as report of progress is by Mr. Conway, seconded by Mr. Leary. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? So voted. Next, we have the Student Support Services Subcommittee report and approval of the minutes of the meeting of Thursday, March 29th, 2012. Ms. Ross Sikowicz.
Thank you, Ms. Mayor. At our meeting, we had Mr. Conway, Mr. Gignac, and Ms. Scott in attendance. We also had Superintendent Gianfranco, Assistant Superintendent Ann Murphy, Adult Education Director Fred Abbasi, the Alternative Diploma Program, UTech Director, Dr. Zanub Cockley. I apologize. And also the coordinator, Roy Karp. We focused on 3 different issues within this subcommittee for this evening. Director Fred Abbasi from the Adult Basic Education Program came and gave us an overall presentation on the services and the types of education and types of students that they serve at the Adult Basic Education Program. And I was surprised to learn that they service approximately 2,300 adults every single year. So that's pretty significant. The second item on the agenda focused on the dropout rate. As you all may recall, very painfully, several weeks back, we received confirmation from the state of Massachusetts that our dropout rate had apparently doubled. Well, further analysis was done, thank goodness, and Assistant Superintendent Murphy provided an overview of how the dropout rate is calculated and an update on the district's dropout rate for school year 2010 and 2011. As staff examined student data looking for common elements, it was discovered that 112 students were double counted. That is, counted in the 2009-2010 data as well as the summer 2010 data, which applies to the 2010-2011 school year. The district has requested that Department of Elementary and Secondary Education recalculate our dropout rate based on the double counting. A response is pending. The district is also investigating and reviewing all procedures regarding submission of data to see if there was an overlap with the beginning and ending dates or if the students were improperly coded into the system. At this time, there's no confirmation as to what caused the miscalculation. If the double-counted students were removed from enrollment, the dropout rate for the 2010 and 2011 school year is reduced to 4.9%. So, Assistant Superintendent Murphy also highlighted contributing factors to the rise in the dropout rate. Counseling students into more appropriate programs, Youth Build, Job Corps, GED programs, if it appeared they would not be able to meet the graduation requirement of Lowell High. Given the uncertainty of continued funding, the Alternative Diploma Program at UTech did not accept new students during the 2010 and 2011 school year. There was also the elimination of the Lowell Police Department grant focusing on home visits and outreach during the summer for at-risk kids, grade 9 students. And there was also the elimination of Operation Attendance, an initiative whereby Lowell High staff would make phone calls to students' homes during the evenings and on Saturdays to report attendance issues. In addition to continuing our dropout prevention strategy efforts to decrease the dropout rate in the coming year, staff will focus on establishing school-based student support teams in all middle schools that will review early warning indicators for students on a weekly basis, evaluate middle and high school alternative options for alignment with district goals, review of dropout data for accuracy by LHS house masters prior to SIMS submission, and develop data systems to measure the effectiveness of our strategies. Okay, so the third item, sorry about that. The third item was a proposal from the Alternative Diploma Program at the United Teen Equality Center to purchase instructional technology, materials, and supplies for the ADP program. As you recall, that request was submitted to this committee on February 15th, and the proposal included a request to use some of the $200,000 allocated for the program this year that will not be used due to the timing of the expansion of the program. The school committee referred the request to a subcommittee meeting. The Assistant Superintendent Murphy provided an update on the ADP program, stating that there were 20 students currently enrolled with the educational directors, teachers, and transitional coaches on board. UTech consulted with OUNCE, a company that specializes in instructional technology, to develop a specific plan to determine the best use of the technology for the ADP. A report was provided in requesting the approval to use $50,000 from the $200,000 allocated to the ADP in the local budget for a one-time purchase of technology. The proposal included several different components. Um, And the total cost for the instructional technology request was $72,252, with UTEC paying the additional $22,252, as well as any recurring monthly costs, monthly fees. After a very lengthy discussion, the subcommittee requested that ADP present a modified budget that would reflect a seed contribution to the instructional technology plan. They have submitted to us a revised budget. I believe everybody has that in their packets. And that would be my report of progress.
Thank you, Ms. Ross-Sakewich. Do we have any further discussion on the report? Mr. Leary.
Just to go into the technology, I guess, so initially we had I think it was $75,000 initially, $72,000. And now after discussions with the administration and UTEC, we have a different budget around $27,000. I guess really, what is the curriculum going to look like with the new set of technology with the reduced rate, reduced value? I mean, it sounds from a dollar standpoint, obviously it's better, but is it going to achieve what their mission is at this point? And then an overall goal, how are they doing in achieving their mission? It's probably something we can't talk about tonight, but the technology piece is significant because it is a large investment. It is a large investment on our part.
Ms. Murphy.
If I may, originally, the $200,000 that the school committee allocated for the ADP program, our original proposal was looking at staff, so that it would fund the teachers, the director, the direct teaching staff. Because we weren't able to expand the program because of the timing of it, there is money left in that $200,000 allocation. And back in February, we had asked to use $50,000 for instructional technology supplies. That was then referred off to a subcommittee. What ADP did was they contracted with a group called OUNCIT to do a technology study and say, what should we really be looking at? And that proposal was then provided to the subcommittee. That proposal called for approximately $72,000 in supplies. Of that, they were asking the school department to allocate $50,000, still of that $200,000 for it. And UTEC would then pick up the extra $22,000 plus the recurring costs. At the subcommittee meeting, members expressed a feeling that was a little bit too much, and was certainly concerned with the technology plan that the district is now looking at, the bigger plan, and had asked ADP to come back with, if they were looking at a contribution to get the program started, and what would they really need. So if you looked at the original proposal for the $50,000, that had the whole 72, it looked at having not only Mac labs in the classrooms, but a significant number of iPads, lots of technology, projections, the whole business. This revised proposal looks at having iMac or having the iPads just enough to be in the classroom, the 15, setting up a Mac lab. So it's really getting the program started and getting the instructional pieces in place, if that answers your question at all.
If I could, Mayor, through you to the Assistant Superintendent. So are we anticipating more of a technology request coming up for the following budget year? I mean, I guess.
I think for the coming year, we would still be asking for the same amount of money for the staffing piece of it. Yeah. And by getting this started, we're hoping that then UTEC could then leverage the proposal for additional outside funding, because UTEC does contribute funding to the program.
Okay. And I thank you. And just a quick comment. I guess when initially we supported this last budget year was because it was a dollar value where we had an increase in Chapter 70 monies that we wouldn't ordinarily have, and we were able to service students. It is a concern. My only concern is, are we being effective as we thought we would be last summer? And I think we need to take this the next step forward, but we need to have some type of benchmarking as to the effectiveness of it. And I think it has opportunity to be effective, but we have to ensure, because we're going to be looking at technology, K through 12 for the young folks that are already in the system, and we're not going to have enough money, no matter how much money we get, to meet the needs of what our projections are, which are like over 20 million. So $27,000 isn't going to break the bank, but it is investment that we could be making in, a third grade class somewhere else, or multiple third grades. I mean, the whole third grade, core, if you will. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Martin?
Thank you. What was the name of the organization they used to perform their audit?
Ounce it.
Ounce it? It just seems odd, having spent $75,000 to do a technology audit, that now someone else is doing another technology audit for this specific program. I understand that UTEC is an independent organization, but it's a shame we weren't able to kind of, incorporate this all together. I think moving forward, I'm comfortable with this level. I'm certainly more comfortable than I was, so that's a move in the right direction. I think one of the key things for us to remember is that traditionally, and the way this has been set up in the past, these are operational costs, and operational costs should be borne on an annual basis as part of what UTEC is, they're getting their per student fee. That this should all be included in that. I understand that we had kind of a bump in the road, and maybe in that, I think I don't have a problem taking that opportunity to make kind of a big investment in technology to support this program. But on an ongoing basis, I do think we need to recognize that this isn't a kind of like an offline budget purchase, that what we are doing is purchasing a service from UTEC, and in doing that, they're providing all the support systems and the resources that are required to provide the service to our students. So again, as a one-time situation, I think that's, I'm more than happy to support this, and specifically because of the work that's been done by the subcommittee. But I do think, and as we move forward into our budget season, it's important to remember that that's not the way this is really set up to run. This is a one-time kind of investment that we're making overall. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Gignac?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just have a few comments about this subcommittee meeting. I'm going to go back to the dropout rate, and I wanted to stress the fact that although the dropout rate wasn't 8.1%, it was recalculated to 4.9, which is still an increase. So everyone should still be on their feet and still be looking at all the programs that we're offering, look at the discipline, look at the curriculum. I just want to make sure that we don't slow down, because it's not as drastic as we thought, but it is a steep increase, especially since we were decreasing our dropout rate consistently for years, and then we did go up. Also, I wanted to mention that we did discuss the fact that the district is investigating and reviewing the procedures regarding submission, which is good. What I found alarming was the fact that Central and the school committee was shocked by these figures when they were released. I don't think that's the way to do things. I don't think anybody in the Lowell Public Schools should be shocked with figures from the state. If we're providing the state with figures, we should know to the T what those figures are going to be when they're released to the public. So I'm glad that we are reviewing and investigating the procedures. However, I must say that I'm disappointed that didn't happen prior to this research. Now going back to the UTEC portion, I just have a question through you, Mr. Mayor, to Superintendent. When are we going to vote on this revised budget? Is that this evening or at a later date? Thank you.
Madam Superintendent?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I believe that if the vote on the revised budget could be considered this evening, it would be really beneficial. We have, as of the subcommittee meeting, there were 22 children. I believe they were stating there would be 25 young people, so they are increasing their enrollment, and it would be helpful for the promotion of the program if that could be submitted this evening, could be voted this evening.
Mr. Gignac?
Thank you, that's it.
Any further discussion on the report? Mr. Conway?
Just very quickly, excuse me, as my colleague mentioned, information gets out into the public. We have no idea at that particular point, and it's, and then we find out that it's erroneous information. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the superintendent, what type of process or procedures might you be looking at to let the public know that those figures that came out are not correct? Because, you know, the old story that it takes one to spoil the water and 100 to clear it up. And I mean, out there right now at this particular point is that the dropout rate has doubled. That's what you hear from people constantly. And it's something that we obviously have to address, and we have to let the public know and make them feel that, that these numbers were wrong. Thank you.
Madam Superintendent.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. The data that we have checked, we looked up every single child, we looked into you've seen the data on each child, the house that they belong to. It was you asked for detailed data, and to also tell Mr. Gignac that it's full speed ahead. Every child that does not graduate is a casualty to this community and beyond. So we're taking that very seriously and continuing with visits. Tomorrow I have I think, B House, and going on reviews, and we're all checking in on all the systems. But getting back to what Mr. Conway said, this error we found ourselves when we were looking through the data, checking through the names. The Department of Education was already contacted more than one time. We're going to contact them again because we can't officially change the outcome unless the department changes the outcome. And so, you know, as Mrs. Murphy explained to me, she said, well, they could let it go and then next year kind of say it might be an error with an asterisk. She said, you really don't know. And we have been in contact. Mr. Schlickman, who was reviewing the data along with Mrs. Murphy, has contacted them, and I have also said to Assistant Superintendent Murphy if there has to be a call to the commission and myself. But we can't officially change anything unless our supervisors, Department of Education in this case, does that, Mr. Conway. But it is very important that we change that particular statistic, and it would be, we have to report it because we found it, and we have reported it, but it is unofficial, and that's why you all and the public has not been told that it's officially changed back. So we are at this kind of crossroads piece. We follow up all the time, but as soon as it's official, it has to be changed. We would like for them to reprint, send that to the press and whatnot, but we would most definitely spread the word. I just can't do that officially at this point.
I appreciate that. Thank you, Madam Superintendent. And I just have one quick follow-up question as far as the UTEC is concerned and the monies. When the original report came out, I think the extended external funds here, UTEC, they were going to add in somewhere around a little over $22,000 for the technology, and through you, Mr. Mayor, to the superintendent. And now we've asked for a revised edition. Apparently, they felt comfortable with the $22,000 plus. We've asked for a revised budget, and they revised their own too, and they went down to $10,000, $10,005 and change. Any particular reason that they did that? Because I mean, the fact is, if they felt comfortable with the, and they certainly gave a great argument about how important technology is, and obviously it is, but I think that when you put things in perspective and realize that, you know, the monies that we would like to put into technology would be certainly a lot more than the, let's say, the $3 million that we might be putting into it, or 3+. Any particular reason why, Madam Superintendent, they dropped their contribution down to 10.5?
It's not really good on television to say that you don't know, but I really don't know. So I'm going to ask Mrs. Murphy if she knows, and if not, Dr. Cockley is here in the audience, so I'm going to ask Mrs. Murphy if she knows. I just saw this budget this evening, so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Murphy.
And Dr. Cackley is here, and she can correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding was that the first budget proposal that was looking at the $72,000 with the $22,000 contribution from UTEC. The money for any of the UTEC programs is all grant funded. They look at whether it's the Parker Foundation, whatever grant they can put together, and they private foundations based on their partnerships. If the school committee was going to a $50,000 contribution to this, then that helps to leverage what they can get from a private foundation. And looking at the $27,000, then I think they felt they could leverage that to get another $10,000 their contribution. But if I'm wrong with that, Dr. Cackley, do you have anything else?
Okay, this is my first time. It's an exciting moment. That's exactly it. It's about being able to commit to raising a certain percentage of the overall budget. And so that you said it beautifully. It's if we can show that we kept, so if you look at the proportion is nearly the same, right? You went to about 27. I don't have the figure in front of me, even though I created it. And then from 22 to nearly 11. And that was the ratio that we were really comfortable with. As you know, we've been doing fundraising for over a decade. And that's to be able to say that our partner is willing to put in X amount and that we need Y amount to get the services or the programs or the technology that our young people need. It's just a much more convincing argument. And foundations always feel more comfortable knowing that we are leveraging our partnerships and really creating a collaborative program, and that they're not the only ones who have to contribute. Is that good enough? Or okay, do I sit down now? Great.
Any further discussion on the report? Do we have a motion to approve the amended budget of the ADP program? Motion by Mr. Leary, seconded by Ms. Martin. Roll call, please.
Ms. Scott?
No.
Mr. Conway?
Yes.
Mr. Gignac?
Yes.
Mr. Leary?
Yes.
Ms. Martin?
Yes.
Mayor Murphy?
Yes.
Ms. Ross Sikowicz?
Yes.
6 yeas, 1 nay, approved.
Thank you. And entertain a motion to accept the rest of the report as a report of progress by Ms. Martin, seconded by Mr. Leary. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? So voted. Finally, we have the Athletic Subcommittee report and approval of the minutes of the meeting of Tuesday, April 3rd, 2012. Mr. Gignac.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I promise this will be the briefest of all of the reports that we received this evening. The Athletic Subcommittee met last night. With me was Mr. Conway, Mr. Leary from the subcommittee. Also present was committee member Kristen Rosikowicz and Kimberly Scott. From Central Administration, Superintendent Jean Franco, Jay Lang, and the Athletic Director, James DeProfio. The subcommittee discussed 3 agenda items. We got an update on the athletic finance reports, an update on staffing, and an update on outstanding motions. What we did is Mr. DeProfio provided us with a list of an overview of the current coaching positions for all the sports at Lowell High School. We briefly went over to see where we stand and if he felt comfortable with that figure, and it was a very, very brief overview. We then went on to look at where we stand with the FY12 approved budget at this point in the year. We all felt comfortable with where we are to date. He presented us, actually Mr. Lang presented us with a printout budget report from Eunice along with the QuickBooks account review. And then we went on to discuss outstanding motions relating to the athletic department. We went into detail on 3, athletic community advertising, athletic strategy plan to promote athletics, and the videotaping of sports events. Mr. Conway requested the outstanding motion pertaining to middle school athletic-themed school be included on the next athletic subcommittee agenda. So we will be looking at that in the future. Mr. DeProfio gave us an update on where the three motions currently stand. He's looking at putting a group together to really look at promoting the athletics of Lowell High School and looking at some avenues to bring in more revenue. And it was a brief meeting. However, we did get into a number of interesting topics. Ms. Rosikowicz and Mr. Leary brought up some good ideas on a social media campaign for the athletic department to look into using Twitter, Facebook, blogs, utilizing the new website that we'll hope to get pretty soon. And that was pretty much the entire meeting. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the report? Motion to approve and accept and place on file by Mr. Leary, seconded by Ms. Martin. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? So voted. Next, we have the reports of the superintendent, 2012 to 2013 school year calendar.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This first report is the calendar for next year that we usually put for your review at this particular time in the school year. We have maintained the same number of release days as we had in for the past 2 years, 6 system-wide early release days, and then, of course, the calendar beginning right a couple of days before Labor Day, as we have in the past, for your review.
Motion to approve by Ms. Martin, seconded by Ms. Rosikowicz. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? So voted. Next, we have a personnel report. Madam Superintendent.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is your monthly update of all the retirements and the movement in the district, resignations and hires. So if anybody has any questions, please.
Any questions? Motion to accept and place on file by Ms. Rosikowicz, seconded by Ms. Scott. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? So voted. Next, we have the financial audit for FY 2011.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is the report of the financial audit of FY 2011, which came back to us with a report of no instance of noncompliance. Everything was in order. We need you to accept the report and place it on file. There are details within, but everything is up to speed in our financial area. So thank you.
Any discussion on the report? Motion to accept by Mr. Leary, seconded by Mr. Gignac. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? So voted. Next, we have the Lowell High School student activity account, the audit, and financial statements. Madam Superintendent.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. These are the fiscal findings or the review of the fiscal activity account at Lowell High, in both for 2011 and 2012. And by detail, you can see how we stand at Lowell High. So if anybody has any questions about this particular report, it's just how we stand at Lowell High School.
Any discussion on the report? Motion to accept the report by Mr. Leary, seconded by Mr. Gignac. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? So voted. Next, we have something very high on Mr. Gignac's agenda, texting and driving. Madam Superintendent.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In a report to a motion that was made by our former school committee member John Leahy back in December, when he asked the superintendent to arrange for an informational seminar at Lowell High School on the dangers of texting and driving. This is a report to answer what's going on at the high school. It has turned into 3 different initiatives that have happened at the high school. There was a presentation. Lowell High School used the AT&T website that provides educational information, and a video talking about the dangers of texting and driving and the implications. And the TV studio is also making copies of that video, and it's being shown in advisory at the Freshman Academy between now and April break. Also, There are two other initiatives. One is Teen Drive, stands for Distracted Reality and Interactive Virtual Education. It's a program with a 30-minute interactive simulator. So as a matter of fact, at the meeting we had here before, the young people were excited about having that opportunity. So there's a simulator type experience for young people to see what it really feels like when you may be under the influence, and they thought that, as a matter of fact, they said awesome. So that was actually a good indicator for all of us as adults. So that's something that's happening through April 30th. And about 100 young people will be able to experience that. And on May 11th, Dr. Marion Mann, a director of pediatric emergency medicine, will be giving a prom-specific presentation of poor choices at prom. And so two of the members of the Lowell High officers that were with us this evening said that it wasn't well attended last year. A couple of them went, but this year it's going to be directed through advisory, and the children will all be coming in a kind of an assembly kind of mode to talk about good choices at prom. And so those are the three responses to the whole texting and driving and the danger piece that the headmaster sent for our review.
Thank you. Any discussion on the report? Seeing none, motion to enact, seconded by Ms. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? So voted. Next, we have the food service overdue cafeteria balances. Madam Superintendent.
Yes, this is in response. It was made on February 15th by Ms. Scott and Ms. Martin, requesting that the administration work with Aramac to develop a more timely and accurate billing system for parents for breakfast and lunch purchases, and to confirm the appropriate firewall protections for all students' data to ensure that the only required program information is accessible. So we went into more detail looking at and working with the Aramac company and seeing how, in fact, we could more. In the past, this report just explains the history of the cafeteria responsible for collecting the money and for collecting balances, and now that it's become more technology savvy, they have had to develop other systems. At this particular point, they have made some other actions to respond to the motion. So every Thursday, Aramac staff is printing to the parents of guardians of students who have a cafeteria balance over $15. Those are going out. I guess the letter is for your review also, to identify the procedure and the payment. School staff, cafeteria staff appreciate knowing about this so they could be ahead of it. So these letters are sent through to every school on Friday, more effective than letting those quantities sum up. Additionally, there are some policies and procedures, some language, cafeteria balances that we really have to look at. At this particular point, we don't have money. There's no cafeteria balance to accrue. If they do not serve paid or reduced paid students, purchase their meal, their account has been exceeded to a certain balance. They do not serve paid or reduced paid students at certain grade levels if they do not have money to purchase their meal. Therefore, no cafeteria balance would accrue. They provide an opt-out policy for parents of paid or reduced paid students that will prohibit students from having them receive a meal if they do not have money. We don't currently do this, I guess. They have to be considered, yes. So as we're looking at more language, we know that we have to have a better way of telling parents about what the options are, because the funding, the way that the billing has taken place has not been best, and so we're trying to work on the policy and some language about that makes more sense. So if anybody has questions about this particular process, we're trying to make it better, and we actually need to do better information systems for parents. And I think maybe some of it needs to be added perhaps to the handbook. We don't have that updated in the handbook. That's a problem, and so that's something we have to look for. We always redo or upgrade our handbooks at this time of the year, so I think that's something we have to really look at.
Thank you. Mr. Leary?
Just quickly, we're going to be doing we did an annual meeting when we brought Airmark on last year. We did another finance, we might do facilities. The point is, we're going to be taking a look at this again very shortly. However, the budget, Mr. Lang has been visiting in every single one of our schools every day for the past 3 weeks, putting the budget together, and we'll be having finance meetings on the budget actually right after the week holiday. In addition, we're also putting a capital plan together, which we're going to be meeting with the city council right after the April vacation. So those two pretty significant projects are almost coming together. So this has been pushed off a little further than anybody had really wanted. But those are two major projects that we have to get done. The city's already waiting for the capital plan, has been waiting patiently. And the third issue we also have is technology. So it's been a pretty cumbersome beginning part of the year, but this is definitely on the agenda. As soon as we have most of the budget completed, this is where we're going to have another forum again, and a lot of these issues we're actually looking for plans so the school committee can actually start voting on different policies, so you're going to do it in time for the handbook. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the report? Ms. Martin?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple quick things. I appreciate the work that's gone into this. I think that, certainly the improving our firewall protection for our student data was a huge step, and I'm very glad that we've taken that. In terms of these new policies that are put in place, I think a weekly reminder home is appropriate. Again, I think one of the key complaints that a lot of people had was that they were getting bills for literally like 3 months of food, and no one had any idea that the kid was going to lunch, and suddenly they're getting a pretty significant bill to pay for this. So I think moving to a week, every Thursday these letters go out, I think that's great. I know that some of the options that you were talking about, Madam Superintendent, about the way other districts do this and how they kind of manage kids and all that, I think, it's certainly something we can have a conversation about. In my mind, I would always err on the side of making sure that if a child's going through, I don't want money to be the thing standing between a child and a lunch. So I think we do need to shore up this program, but I don't think we need to turn it into, anything that would get in the way of a child being able to access food for whatever reason. So just, as we look at that moving forward, I think it's something for us to keep in mind. This is a good step, but I think we'll have to be hearing from parents, and I'm sure we will be moving forward if they're, to tweak this as we keep trying to improve things. Thanks.
Ms. Ross-Sikowicz.
Thank you, Mayor. In speaking with parents about this issue, one of the concerns that they raised was the fact that they weren't necessarily aware that their child was essentially charging their lunch every day, and that in turn obligates the parent to pay for that expense. But most families, they budget out like we do, and and say a parent hasn't necessarily budgeted out to pay for those lunches, those meals, they get a surprise bill at the end of the month for X number of dollars. They're a little bit surprised by that, the fact that they've been obligated essentially by a credit card. So I think it needs to be very clear to our parents, to our families, that what the expectation is, how the process works, that their child is issued a card, a swipe card, or they're issued an ID identification number where they key it in each and every day when they obtain a meal. But beyond that, I think it's an option that we need to offer parents, that there's an opt-out. So essentially, a parent is able to sign off in the beginning of the year that says, I'm opting out of this. I'm opting my child out of this program. I send lunches to school with my child every day, and actually, I would even do it halfway through the year after Christmas break, just to account for any changes, any financial changes in the household, because that does happen in our households. So I think just to keep those points and be cognizant of those issues, I would really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the report? Entertain a motion to accept and place on file by Mr. Gignac, seconded by Ms. Scott. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? So voted. Next we have convention and conference requests. Entertain a motion by Mr. Conway, seconded by Mr. Gignac, to take all 5 together. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? So voted. Motion to approve, all 5 by Ms. Martin, second by Ms. Rosikowicz. Roll call, please.
Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. Conway?
Yes.
Mr. Gignac?
Yes.
Mr. Leary?
Yes.
Ms. Martin? Mayor Murphy?
Yes.
Ms. Rosikowicz?
Yes.
7 yeas, approved.
Next, we have the adjournment portion of the agenda. Motion by Ms. Martin, second by Mr. Leary. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? So voted. We stand adjourned.